Hello, friends and neighbors. This is JP, J. Pizzle, John Paul Wright. Now, you will notice I don't have very many live people watching this video as of right this moment. Probably won't have hardly anybody watching this video. Not very many. And that's fine. You could at this very moment share or invite people to this, but I wouldn't want to rein you in because it doesn't matter to me. I'm being a character right now. I'm being a sacred clown, a Heyoka. I'm being a shaman. Rawr! Do you think I care whether or not I put feathers in my ear or stick them in my nose? Rawr! But I do want to read you something I wrote this morning. Don't want to scare you or anything, but anyway. He said, "Well, you are free. I was talking to my hobo train riding friend, rail yard ghost, standing on the backside of my workplace, riverfront, Ohio whipping up wind and waves. I said, 'Hey, Jonah turned 18 yesterday.' And it was a phone call from another world to my world. His world now, still roaming around from siding to siding. He just bought his little Big Rock Candy Mountain, his version of Payne Hollow, Walden Pond, upstate Wisconsin. A big river follows along the backside, train tracks bordering his front. Free? I am free to a degree to wonder if all of those seeds I planted in that kid will grow. The purposeful mentions, the moral to the stories, the dark places, the union meetings, passing motions, all that. And later I realized why I was feeling funny all day. This day would have been my 25th year anniversary with his mom. But that is far away from all that I am now. That date will pass by now, like the drift in the river, maybe like a town once visited, like an exit on a highway or a yellowed family vacation photo. And in this digital world, the photos will not yellow with time. The news articles will not crumble in some manila folder. Most of what happens these days happens in a place where there is no darkness. And yes, that is Orwellian as fuck. AF. Just as dark as the place I would have to go to continue this prose. Uninterrupted, alone, isolated for days on end. But, and most importantly, I am not in that place right now. RN. The rest of the world may be writing the new Speak Dictionary. RN, AF, double plus good, LMAO, emoji this, meme this and that. Time, dystopian times. In a week we leave on a steamboat to be gone for a week. Clickety-clackety pushing upriver. In many ways this will be my Hearts of Darkness trip. My never get out of the boat moment. I have an active imagination, y'all. I have nothing to prove, no point to make. I am leaving myth and messages on a forest path of escape. We will be leaving from the same place Lewis and Clark once left. Undaunted courage. And as this prose is written, history is being retold. The winners have lost control of their narrative. Statues are being taken off pedestals. A great power shift is happening. All the gods and goddesses of industry have been exposed and are dead or dying. The pendulum is swinging hard in a windstorm of change. Heroes and heroine are being defaced and new slogans installed. And all this was inspired by one phone call from a friend. A rail yard ghost. An old pal of the Kerouac suggestion of free roaming. The let's just go and see people. The if there is a lower class then I am of it, folks. This writing might as well be a middle finger to the law and order crowd, or at least a warning. Your slip is showing. You fascists are losing your damn minds and are losing favor with a new generation of electronically educated, self-inspired natives. I can hear the far-off drums. Can you? What it is that I was writing there was after a phone call with a friend of mine from years ago, a rail yard ghost, a person that I met who was a rail hobo who traveled along the rails with his friends in a group called the Rail Yard Ghosts. And if you want to get wild, you can Google Rail Yard Ghosts and you will find a collective music group of people who, if Alan Lomax was around these days, he would have definitely recognized that this is something very important that needed to be documented, because this is a continuation of an American folk tradition. So that phone call with those folks, that clique, I'm kind of a rail yard ghost person. I'm in that clique to a degree, I guess you could say. So my friend called me, and I was standing on the back of what is called the Andrew Broadus, which is a place that was put on the river in the 1920s, something like that. A life-saving station for the Falls of the Ohio. And when I stand on the back of that building, the rest of the city of Louisville sort of disappears. And what comes up in front of you is an entire 180 view of the Ohio River at its widest point along its many-mile journey down to the Ohio River, or down to the Mississippi at Cairo, Illinois, from Pittsburgh. And it's the widest point, and that opens up in front of your face. And as he was talking to me on the phone, a big storm had whipped up, kind of came out of nowhere and started making some waves in the river and blowing some things around. And I was having this conversation with him on the phone that sort of inspires what it is that I'm actually doing down there on the river. You know, there's a scene in Apocalypse Now. It's one of my favorite movies. I love journey movies. I love myth movies. The Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Apocalypse Now, things like that. I love those crazy stories of, journeys and wildness. There's a scene in the movie, one of my favorite scenes, where Captain Willard is going through the dossier of Kurtz, and he's sitting on the front of the boat, sort of putting the classified information about this person who he's been ordered to kill. They're going upriver, and he's looking at this and he's saying, why in the heck would this guy in the middle of his 40s decide to go be this? Why would he make this decision? This is crazy. This doesn't follow any of the narratives of what most people would do. And he's throwing the stuff in the river, and his Kurtz's classified information is just floating down the river. That's partly my inspiration of what it is that I've been doing down there for the last 3 years on the river. I've been making some decisions in life that some people might not understand why it is that I did something as crazy as quit a big job and transition to another person to a degree. I've kind of become somebody else, but not really. Still the same dude. However, there's a lot of things that have happened in 3 years since I've been down there on the river. So that's what this writing is inspired by. Going on this actual trip this next week, I don't know if, a writer, as a writer, it seems to me that you get into this mood, and that's where you go to get this writing out of you. If you're a writer, you got to be in that place. When I get on the boat of the Belle Louisville, you automatically are put into this place that only exists there, because it is the only steamboat left in the whole United States, except for a couple of other boats that really can't be qualified as authentic steamboats. You know, the Natchez down in New Orleans is a replica with old equipment in it. It's not a steamboat of the old days. It's you know, the whole transition of the bell is on the starboard side hallway that shows that this boat was built in 1914, and it's the same structure and it's the same boat. Used to be the built as the shoot, I'm having a brain fart. Well, anyway, 3 different names the boat has had. The Idlewild being one of them. Yeah, the Idlewild, and then the Avalon, and then the Bell. Same boat, just different names. So, you know, this place that I go already is quite a different place. It exists in time, in its own time, which is really strange. But anyway, it's hard to explain. But I got my orders to what it is that I'm actually going to be doing on this trip, and I'm going to be doing the, you know, firebox, working in the engine room. This will be the, when I get on the trip, it'll be the first time I've set foot on the boat as it was in the water freely this year, which is going to be interesting to me. I've been a watchman all summer into the fall, and our trip up the river will be the first time that I've actually set foot on the boat when it's on the way. I'm really excited about this. It puts me in a place in that firebox where it's so loud, so much is going on, that it's almost peaceful. It's hard to explain. You just have to be there. And it's really an interesting feeling to know that when you're firing that boat, you're the only person on the Ohio River doing a job or a craft or a trade that does not exist. So in some ways, you don't exist. You know, there are no firemen on the Ohio River firing steam boilers. They're just, I'll be that guy. And there's only one. And there may be 1 or 2 somewhere, who knows, but not like that. Not on an old gal, not on a steamer, not on something that Mark Twain would recognize. You know, Mark Twain wouldn't recognize the Mary Miller, you know, diesel engines. That didn't happen until the 40s. You know, so, you know, I can't wait to be a stowaway to 1914 is what I'll be for a couple of weeks. Going up to a big shipyard, you know, really bizarre places like that. Be in this shipyard for a week, sitting around on a boat, you know, lots of time on your hands, lots of time for your brain to wander. You know, I hope and plan to do more writing. That's what this writing is this morning, is kind of the beginning. I'm starting to prime the pump of something that I think I want to write about. Definitely being out there on the Ohio River in the middle of nowhere on an old steamboat is definitely a place to be, to get inspired. Let me say that. So, if you feel as if you would like to share this live video, I think it's important to hear the voice of the writer. You know, I have a 10th grade education. I was kicked out of the Brown School. And as far as I know, I'm not sure, I think the club, I think I'm in a very exclusive club. There are very few people that were actually physically kicked out of the J. Graham Brown School. I think me and Kathy Irwin might be the only 2 people. Kathy Irwin from the old Freakwater. I'm not sure. I'd have to find out. If there was ever going to be a reunion of creative, wild people, it would definitely have to be the people who got kicked out of the J. Graham Brown School. We were probably the most creative, most wild, because if you get kicked out of the J. Graham Brown School, let me tell you, that's a hell of an accomplishment. I got kicked out because my mom was exposing some crap that I don't even want to talk about anymore. It's not worth it to stir up that shit. But my mom got us kicked out of there because she just couldn't keep her mouth shut, hanging out with Ann Braden all the time and exposing corruption within the system. I'll tell you, it's a job. It's a pain in the ass to be that person. He said, well, you were free. I was talking to my hobo train riding friend, Rail Yard Ghost, standing on the backside of my workplace, riverfront, Ohio, whipping up wind and waves. I said, "Hey, Jonah turned 18 yesterday, and it was a phone call from another world to my world. His world, now, still roaming around from siding to siding. He just bought his little Big Rock Candy Mountain, his version of Payne Hollow, Walden Pond, upstate Wisconsin. A big river follows along the backside, train tracks bordering his front." Excuse me. It took me a while to self-educate myself into how to write. Like I said, I'm a 10th grade dropout. Never did go to college. I have never written one single paper in an academic fashion. Matter of fact, I never even took algebra or calculus or any of that other higher math stuff. I am a 10th grade dropout, self-educated writer. And if I ever make a crazy ass mistake, point it out to me in a Facebook Messenger thing, and I'd love to know what it is I did. I have learned some things from some other writers who have given me some great advice. One of the best advice I ever got as a writer was from a very respected writer who asked me a question. Wendell Berry said, "Why do you write?" And I said, "I don't know, really." And he said, "Well, you better keep writing because that's a good answer." I also had another wonderful piece of advice from a writer, Ron Whitehead, who said, punctuation really doesn't matter, really, as long as you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, the same way, so that you don't confuse your reader. Because you'll get fans that understand what it is you're trying to say as long as you keep doing it the same way over and over again. And I have studied very deeply several writers. Like if I was to say who has inspired me the most, I would most definitely have to say, as a poet, some local people, Billy Lee Williams Smith is somebody who has inspired me very deeply. Wendell Berry, of course. Ron Whitehead in his whole life story. Everything about that guy is wild and very impressive. Hunter Thompson, as of late, has his essays are something, and his Freak Power campaign out in Aspen has been something that I've been paying very close attention to. But the people that most absolutely and definitely, I've been paying very close attention to Kurt Vonnegut, his writing and his life as it went. And of course, Harlan Hubbard. I think Harlan is the source of the sense of place Kentucky writer business. I got a chance to go out there and visit Payne Hollow and get a chance to drink a little bit from that well. And wow, how deep of a well is that? I really do think that Harlan was the guy, the source of that whole Kentucky writer business. And let me tell you, I bet, and this is just me being a little smarty pants, but I bet you if Harlan was around now, they wouldn't even let him in the club. They would probably say, "No, he's too crazy, man. We can't come in here. He scared the people at the University of Kentucky to death." But I don't know. I think it's funny, to tell you the truth. But anyway, happy birthday and an amen and fried chicken and mashed potatoes and gravy to everybody. We are living in some strange times, folks. But just keep in mind, the river just keeps on and running. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. You can build a dam if you want to, but it ain't going to work. Because water makes its own way. Be like water. All right. Have a good one. And if you find any wooden nickels, save them. You might need them as kindling. Have a good one.